was, as a means to help improve our lives, improve health, happiness, wellness. And so our lab is really now focused on how do we, scale up behavior change solutions. So specifically, like, behavior design is actually different than behavioral design. A lot of people they don't really specify that. So behavioral design would be something that's leading up to kind of the psychology side of it. I would look at it as more, hey, it's consulting. It's like, how do you put these psychological metrics, into the onboarding of a technology product? Versus behavior design is actually a system where we learn how to think very clearly, human behavior, how to understand it, how to dissect it. So really, how to identify what is going on in this human in general. Then the separate part is how do you actually design solutions for that? That's very different. And so BJ came up with multiple different methods and models to actually solve for different behavioral problems, right? So I would say behavior design kind of comes after behavioral design. Subtle, but important. Why? When we're talking about everything we're doing here today, it's really important to identify what is the root cause. What are the in his terms, it would be, what are the tiny habits, if you will, the things that you could uproot, and as a result, the entire network would be de-risked. And so by using behavior design methods and models, we're actually able to identify what are the behaviors you're designing for in a technology solution. At the end of the day, technology is just a tool to facilitate the kinds of behaviors we want to engage in society, right? And so that's really what I've focused my entire life on. I'm really passionate about building out the most actionable behavior change data set. I think it's really important to take expert intelligence prior to layering on artificial intelligence. And so I think I'm really excited to talk about how we can use that for more resilient systems, including infrastructure across, not only technology, but in terms of cities, in terms of trucking, supply chain, logistics, and ultimately intelligence in the human sense as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a major point today is we were talking before we came on about the logistics of this, and that's a major issue in the supply chain, and so.
Hi. I'm Dimitris Kokosioulis. I am I'm a member of the board of the IHAF, which is International Humanitarian Aid Foundation. We work not with the intelligent, because we intervene where there is lack of intelligence. There is lack of intelligence in wars. There is lack of intelligence in climate change. So this is where we come. We have been working for a long time now in the humanitarian crisis domain, and we are trying to ease the suffering of those in need. In fact, we try to organize where there is no organization. We try to help them understand the needs, and maybe sometimes to prevent situations. This is where you come in handy. We are based in Greece. We have worked for a long time with the migration crisis, which we believe that we have managed pretty good. And now for us, Ukraine is a big challenge. We were one of the first to be there and assess the situation. And we have seen this lack of organization in logistics and also in some other aspects. The thing is that in times of crisis and of need, everyone wants to help, okay? But how do you help is the problem. Everyone wants to donate things. You cannot donate pasta and flour to those that they don't have access to kitchen, no? And the first response, it's not giving them beds, it's giving them water. So this is exactly what we are doing. yeah, it's a big challenge, Ukraine, for us, and we are assessing our situation and see where it goes from here.
So I appreciate the introductions. Thank you very much. The real question I have is, as this crisis kind of continues, there's a lot of debate on the length of time this might last. Some people think it'll be over soon. Others think this is going to be a long, drawn-out conflict. How stressful, and it'd be interesting to think about it from a technology standpoint, from your standpoint and yours, because they're totally different worlds. How stressful is this going to be on the EU, particularly the smaller countries where we have a lot of migration, we have food shortages, we're going to have Ukrainians that they've lost their jobs, they've lost their assistance. So talk about the impact this is going to have sort of across the EU, and maybe give us your perspective on what that might look like too. So I'll start over here and then.
In my opinion, the thing is that the effect of the war, it's not how much time will the conflict last, because the effect is already a long-term effect. In order to reconstruct a country that is on a war, you need time. In order for the people to recover from this, you need time. So, okay, the problem is that during this conflict, you cannot intervene as easy as after the conflict is over. And this will give Europe some time to think about it. Yes, it should have intervened earlier, as Mr. Schinas said yesterday. But they are working on it, and now we are also in discussion with the European Commission. They will build up a mechanism, a first response mechanism, an emergency mechanism, and they have asked for the opinion of all kinds of stakeholders, and which one of them is us, and they are trying to see what went wrong and what could be prevented in future crises. Mm-hmm. Those can be pandemic, those can be the floods, those can be fires, or those can be worse. Hopefully not. And yeah, because there are missing also the know-how, which we have. We can give advice on how to organize logistics hubs, for example, which there is this misunderstanding that logistics hubs is only where we store the packages and the help, but it's an operational system which it helps you also see what's needed and divert it to the specific places. So we're going to be discussing with them and see how we can help, and maybe find a better way to absorb all this funding which has been raised. But yeah, it will be discussed now at the end of May.
Is it also about getting the right kind of aid? Because we were talking again before before this started about food trucks of food that are perishing at the border. But obviously we're sending the wrong kind of aid, the wrong kind of food. Right?
You're right. Yeah.
When you
everything is packed up in bags.
Right.
How can you, if you have trucks full of bags, how is it possible to see which one of this product is important for the people in need? You cannot. You have to pack them very carefully in specific packages for specific people. As I told before, those that they have access in kitchen, or those that they do not. Families with children, which they have other needs. It must be all supervised and by dietitians also, because those people that are in the bunkers, They have other needs that those that are outside.
Right.
And so it must be supervised. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Otherwise, the bags stay in the trucks. They get bad after a while.
Ari, is there a technology solution to this?
Yeah, actually, I love this. My mind is going right now as we're talking. So this is improv, guys. This has not been planned. I think
that's how we roll. That's how we roll.
Right? That's good. Yeah. So something you were saying, it just made me realize you continue to talk about, look, we need the ability to do something. The how do we do it, right? And so you're saying, look, if they don't have a kitchen, these items won't work, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Like, that totally makes sense. And so in a lot of just to root it back in, I think my objective here today is to define the difference between the behavioral thing and then behavior design. So in BJ's model, it's all about, you have motivation, ability, and then a prompt. And you have the right amount of motivation, the right amount of ability. Then when you have the call to action, it actually works. You have the behavior that occurs. In your case, it's like, okay, everyone's motivated. We all want to do this. We all want to donate or whatever, right? But, if you don't have the ability to know, or be aware that here are the items that actually would have significant lift or move the needle, then, you're acting with you're well intentioned, but the impact is still, neutral if not negative at best, right? Because we're actually spending resources on that too, and then this food's rotting at the border. So right now, I would say that I foresee the current market, it's going to take a while, I think, and I'm more concerned about the seed shortage and actually how that's going to, relay. We could talk about that more later. But on the technology side, I think what I am hopeful for, and I think my normative stance, which you were talking about before as well, is that we should really be taking, using mindful intelligence. And so it's a new term coined out of Stanford. So instead of it just being artificial intelligence and not necessarily layering on experts, like yourself, where we actually I didn't know the difference between this logistics thing. I didn't know that, right? That's pretty critical information. And if I'm just using AI to augment my own, limited knowledge around how this logistics center works, a lot of people are not going to get the food they need. Versus if we are more aware in our approach of how we're collecting the data sources before layering on the machine learning, we're actually able to solve these problems at scale, leveraging the intelligence of experts, right? So you have, not only collective intelligence, but essentially collective expert wisdom, which is pretty critical in these, cross-national problems.
Yeah, and is there a way to, from both of your standpoints, that, because it seems to me like we are donating, people are willing to give, they're willing to, but if they're giving children's coats and clothing and
in summer,
that's a waste of time and effort and energy, right? And so how do we better channel, I guess, some of this aid and do a better job sort of telling people what we need, what is needed, or what your agencies like you need, and then and what role does technology play in that, and how do we communicate that, maybe is the question, I guess. But does that make sense as a question? How do we better do that? Because you're right, we don't need winter jackets stockpiled in some warehouse that could be stockpiling something we need.
One word: think ahead and consulting. We are trying to make ourselves available to the stakeholders, to the governments, to the municipalities, to the EU. We are trying to make ourselves available. We are available for giving them the advice, because otherwise it goes to waste. It goes to waste. We are talking about food. You cannot imagine the quantities of the humanitarian aid that goes to waste.
Does that include medicine?
Yes.
Okay.
Medicine also, yes, of course, because sometimes the people that are donating medicine, that they are not so careful about the date of expiration, which is very important. It goes the same with food. It should be well organized in order not to go to waste, and not for the effort of the people that they want to donate to go to waste, to make it worth. Companies, big corporations, they want to donate. No, don't donate like this. Donate specifically. Go and see where your donation is going. Track it. Be sure that it's worth it. It's already packed and it has the ingredients. It has everything on the side of the box. You know exactly where it goes, and when it goes there, you are aware that it went to the beneficiaries that it should supposed to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of begs the question to talk about supply chain, really. Do you want to weigh in on how some of these supply chain issues that we're seeing globally, what are we what is happening, and what are we doing wrong?
What is happening?
Yeah. So.
I mean, make it simple. I mean, make it simple, because people don't understand, I think, the complexity of it.
Okay, so I would say that, yeah, we don't have knowledge around the timing of expiration. I think is a really critical thing, right? When we talk about medicine or food, I think people are misinterpreting the distance things take. And again, I'm going to use the word mindful all over the place, so I apologize in advance for that. But, they're not being mindful of, hey, here's what they need, here's when they need it by. This item that I am then sending is only really going to be good for this amount of time. So they're operating, from my view, more on a human basis rather than looking at the data around what is actually needed. Beyond that, I think the part, I guess, before I tapped on a little bit of, like what is going on, from a standpoint of, if we're not able, like if there's a war going on, these people can't work and plant things. Ukraine is a central hub for food, and like for seeds, right? Among other things, which I'm sure you guys are way more well-informed than I am, but from the U.S. side of the research and the data points I've seen, it's more so concerning around the supply chain of, okay, if you are not planting these seeds in a timely fashion, then when it comes time to harvest, okay, that harvest is not there. What is that now going to do to the global market in terms of commodity prices? I don't know, right? Obviously, there's an incentive for different, government. I'm not going to say names. Different governments to do, take the actions they're taking, and so I think. On the technology side, what's really critical here is, like, I would love to see something stand up where when you are donating, it's really clear around the actual object it's going to, and you can actually maybe even see a time release of like, oh, it's going to purchase this kind of food that is going to this person. And the reason why is because you could actually crowdsource then the people who are wanting to donate. And then on the end, they are, they're watching their donation. They're like, wait, you're trying to send this winter coat to someone in summer. I don't want that. So they could actually pause the execution. So they could show their intention, and they could show, look, here's the money, and I want to put it towards something. But then you could maybe on the UI show there's like a little DoorDash type thing is what I'm visualizing here, and it would show that it's not yet executed on the payment being transacted, and then. The user could see, hey, actually, I want to make sure this goes to a child who's in wintertime or whatever. And so as a result, you're taking the weight and the pressure off of the government so that the government can do, the jobs they do best around actually understanding how to advise on where things should go. And the users could then say, hey, here's the thing I want to give. And wait, this is a slight, like the kind of a last mile problem. Here's what we can do there. So that would be something in technology I would love to see is more, I don't know if I want to say smart contracts necessarily, but I think of it as consensual technology. So you're consenting to some kind of engagement about how you support an effort, and then you crowdsource the efforts of the people who are really highly motivated. And then through the UI and the UX, give them the ability to take some action, but that doesn't mean the action is yet executed on. You then wait for someone who is the expert in the field to say, yes, agreed, this is exactly what we need based on our budget, etc.
Could you have some, I mean, this is interesting because could you have, that made me think of sort of a central hub for organizations like his across the board, right?
Yep.
And a donor, I'm an individual, I'm in Kansas, and I want to give 1,000 winter coats. The organization, there's an organization now that's trying to do clothing for Ukraine refugees, right? They decide they will take those and warehouse them or whatever. So this would be sort of a central, are you thinking of sort of like a central hub for organizations to take what they need, to get what they need?
So I would say yes, and also having local regions that then are using, so for instance, like on Google Maps when you're here, they don't notice side roads and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Google is an American company, so when they get their information from here, I mean, they can tell you how they do that, but they are lacking certain things that people who are here on the ground floor know, right? They're shortcuts, etc. And also, people are people. They're going to always hack their way to success. That's just what happens. So a day goes by and you're missing some kind of,
I'm gonna steal that, by the way. I like that. I like that.
But yeah, so I mean, I think it's important from a standpoint of I love central hubs. Like I have this kind of thesis on, what do I say? It's like CDE, so it's like central, decentralized, and then like empowered finance. No one's ever really talked about that. I think this is the first time I'm saying it publicly, but the idea would be, even from a data ecosystem perspective, you have a centralized hub of where you're intaking this information, and then from the decentralized approach, it would be what I'm talking about now. So have like a localized unit, you're continuing to check in with, global hub,
right.
And then from the empowered side, that's where I don't really have a definition on it yet. Like I'm still kind of working through that in my research, but I think it's really on the UI and the UX. Like a lot of these applications don't have a way to say, hey, this is not working, that's not what I meant. And that's pretty important to be able to, have this technology that empowers the people I think I'm just really focusing on the last mile here.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really done that before in my research, but as we're talking, I'm thinking that might be the problem, is really the UI and UX is not empowering the users to comment on, no, I don't really actually want this, or yes, I do. And when it does, maybe perhaps it's not helpful. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that was something I was thinking.
No, it's fascinating. I mean, it's certainly worth a deeper conversation. And I really haven't heard much conversation around that this week, and as a way to solve some of these sort of logistics and supply chain and what people need. So I think we're going to be back this afternoon with someone from Ukraine to talk more about that. So I think that'll be that's certainly, you brought up some interesting questions. So tell you what I want to do is, you guys got up really early. Okay. I know you guys have some questions, right? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Go for it.
I've been trying not to get excited.
You can get excited. You can. It is. It is early. We all were up late last night. You can get excited and get us excited here.
So
you can raise the energy level.
Perfect. Wonderful. All right.
I see it just brimming.
You can see the coffee finally hitting me as well,
yes.
right? No, so I build DAOs. I work in blockchain technology for social good.
I have an idea for you.
So
I've been talking about it last
now
week.
No. Listen. So this woman right here does mapping. So geolocation mapping.
Oh, cool.
What we talked at the Ukraine house yesterday, I spoke with someone who directs refugees to resources on the ground, specifically with medicine. And right now, nothing is automated. So it is individual people in a war zone with no ability to communicate with people in a global economy, exactly, in a scalable way. And so what we were talking to them about was building some type of DAO or decentralized system that implements supply chain solutions on the ground. But then the UI, we want to make it accessible because you shouldn't need a highly technical degree.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So then
Smart.
You play into the mapping. So if you want to talk about what you were doing with the formula shortage, because it's a direct application.
Yeah. Thanks. Also, this is such a fascinating talk. So thank you for getting up early and being here and sharing your perspective and expertise. But as Aidan mentioned, so I co-founded an interactive mapping software company. So if you've seen the Davos Week app, like our interactive map is in there. That's
For anyone on the live stream, it's a great app.
Yeah. Kudos. Yeah.
Thank
Kudos.
you. Well, and it was born out of need. So and actually our CEO is ex-intelligence, and so she actually built that. The original prototype and the MVP was trying to understand where to safely go trick-or-treating in 2020 with her children. Of like, how do we crowdsource this in a scalable way? Would people actually use something that has a very friendly UI, just drag, drop, you don't need to know how to code, etc. And as a test ran it, anyway, ended up going viral, got shared 500,000 times, and she realized, like, I'm going to put my PhD in human-centered design on hold because I think, and I called one of my business school classmates, said, I think this is a business. And so the more that we've looked into it, so I came from 5 years at Amazon working on some last mile challenges, et cetera, and I saw what they were working on and said, I, as a former Airbnb host, I tried to solve this problem. I couldn't direct my specific guests and audience to the things that they wanted in a way that scaled and in a way that was easy to share, where really all you need is a smartphone. So kind of bringing this full circle, a mom in Houston found our software, and you may know, and I'm not sure if this is just constrained to the US, but there's a huge formula shortage. So I'm a mom, I have a 2-year-old, and I just, that really hit home of like, this is a big problem if you can't feed your child. And so, she basically took our software and created a map to basically facilitate matching supply and demand. So where are milk banks? Who has formula? Who needs milk? Who needs formula? And so
There's direct application of this.
That's great.
yes, and so we're super early stage. 8 months in, but we're on the sort of nascent cusp. And after hiring an amazing female developer from Meta, being able to scalably ingest information from large data sets and then immediately apply those and action those to help the community. And the UI and UX is so user friendly.
Cool.
And that's what's missing, is if you have a really technically skilled and capable solution that can do lots of sophisticated things, it doesn't matter if nobody can use it. Just like if someone makes a huge donation and it's not specifically what the end user needs, it sits in a truck and it rots. Same thing happened in Amazon with Fresh. It's like if you can't batch that up, you got problems.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the distinction that you were drawing between behavior and behavioral, like that, I think that's so key.
Yeah.
So if you're, and I think I'm picking up what you're putting down, but would love to hear just a little bit more about that, or how you envision sort of incenting the right behavior for folks that already are interested, that already are like you said, the kind of like the 3-tiered stool. Like, yes, I have the motivation, I want to help. Yes, there's a prompt, but then how do I, engage with the right expertise? Like, what comes to mind for you?
And real quick too, pass the mic back over. I want you. I know there are a lot of people online this morning.
Yeah.
And we probably have people in this room that don't understand what a DAO is.
Oh, please.
Let's back it up
No,
and
absolutely.
explain that, because I think that's actually something for a humanitarian organization.
Yes, absolutely.
It's something that we should another discussion that needs to be had. Go ahead. Yes.
No, please. I'm like, yes. So that was actually how I got into blockchain, was understanding that the technology has incredible use cases for the world. But again, it doesn't matter if we communicate it in a way that makes it so difficult that no one can use it, right?
Right.
So I don't have a technical background. I go to University of Washington, Law, Society, and Justice. And I wanted to learn the technical side of things so I could communicate it to other people. At its core, a DAO, which stands for a decentralized autonomous organization, which means nothing to 99% of the world, right?
The branding.
It's a bunch of.
I was actually in a conversation last night about the branding of that, but anyway.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we have so many things to say.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
It is a complete. So is crypto. That's a whole nother rebrand.
I was going to say, yeah.
But anyway.
But it's a string of buzzwords at that point. But what it is, at its core, is a chunk of code that allows for democratic voting and democratic representation transparently, quickly, and efficiently, right?
And open source.
And open source. So you can directly see where capital goes, you can see that your vote is represented, and there's no centralized power that implements whatever the majority said, right? So in a centralized democracy, you have people who count votes in hand, and then we have a group of people that their entire job is to listen to democracy, right? And we know that has severe problems. It's worked and it hasn't. A DAO simply enacts whatever the majority says, and it's a computer that does it, right? So there's no person that's doing this. It is, and it is still very much in its infancy. But I think there are a lot of amazing applications that have gone unused because that technology hasn't been communicated in that way.
Right. It's a way to raise significant money for as well.
Exactly. I'm not even talking about the monetization aspect of it, right?
Right.
Like I can watch my money go directly to someone in Ukraine if I vote, so I can see my impact directly. I'm far more incentivized to do that than to give to a centralized power where the vast majority of that money is going to go to salaries.
It revolutionizes the way you give. I mean, it's here we go. Yeah. It's all right.
Sorry.
All right. So, let's let you input, and then she had a follow up for you.
Sure.
first of all, aspects that I didn't have in mind. So thank you so much for this.
Of course.
We are at your disposal for any kind of platform that you want to build up. So I will concur with you saying that the local aspect is of most importance. So we need those tiny cars that go around with the camera in Ukraine saying that's what's going on. I'm pretty sure that the cars are not going to pass because there are no roads. But I mean, we need
that first.
Yeah,
They're kind of targets right now.
they're going to be like targets, yes.
We need a drone.
But we need local. And we try to do this. We try to assess the situation with the help of local people saying exactly what they need. And also giving us the updated data on the situation of the railways, on the situation of the roads. So we need that. And on the other hand, this platform or IT, sorry if I'm not using the right words, it's of great help.
You mind if
we're at your disposal. Yes.
Do you mind if I ask a question about that from everybody here? Is there a way to use drone technology? I mean, they're flying drones and taking video constantly. Is there another use for that footage? I know there's a military use for it, but is there another use from the humanitarian side that could say the military is going to feed that same data to the humanitarian portal, right? So that you guys know what roads are open that you could get. I mean, it's risky, but is there a way to? I mean, we've got to get the aid in. We've got to get the food and the medicine in. They're figuring out how to get They're figuring out how to get the weapons in. So, I mean, how do we? I mean.
Do you want me to comment? Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have heard of anything like synthetic AI or synthetic data sets. So I think my suggestion here would be that what happens is, and the government is like, they're not really open to this still because they're concerned that people like still hack the live feeds. But my understanding right now would be, or the way I would attempt to solve the problem, and we've done it in U.S., but I don't know if it's possible internationally. So again, concept. Go with me here, would be, you have the drone is taking live video. What you then do is create a synthetic data set on that. But when the video is mapping these different roads, it's actually going to look at the where is A, where is B, the distance, and then it will also look at the time. Okay. Now from that, here's where it gets a little iffy because it wouldn't necessarily provide us the information of, oh, here Aiden starts here and then she walks here. But what it would provide is intelligence around, hey, here's the shortest path to get this object from here to here, and you don't need to know how they did it, and that's okay. And then that's less risky path from the the government side. They just don't want people to see where someone's going when they are transporting food, because guess what? You could get bombed, or not just the roads getting.
Can you explain what a synthetic data set is?
Oh yeah, cool. A synthetic data set is what would I say? So if we. Yeah, I am Ari, hello, and then I have a birthday, and I am a female. I have other characteristics about me, right? What it would do is take out anything that's personally identifiable, and then it actually goes a little bit beyond that. I don't think everyone defines it this way, but for me, I actually also look at behavior sequences. So I'd also look at maybe someone's gait or other behavioral tendencies of where they're clicking. Not a lot of synthetic data sets do that right now, but the general thing would be that, you guys have something in common. Like, you're generally both, like whiter skinned-ish, maybe yellow tone, maybe a little pink. You're both wearing glasses. You're both wearing kind of dark blue. So, cool. Maybe that then relates to a set around your choices.
I have more gray hair.
You get what I'm saying, right? Though, so it's like, okay, there's some of these things. Yeah, it's anonymized. We don't know who either of you are. But then we can look at the choices you're making and kind of make a general clustered effect around, hey, if I'm looking at a big map and there's a node and there's a bunch of people who are kind of like this, that we then look at that and cross-reference their choice set. And we're able to see, wow, that's interesting. They're kind of unique here, but they're not really overlapping here. I wonder why. I don't actually know why. I can hypothesize. But the reality is it doesn't matter, because all we're trying to do is get something from A to B. Right, so my recommendation, I guess, would be the synthetic, attempt to use synthetic data sets so that information is secure. but then we're able to still have the lift from effectiveness.
Is that,
One comment on that.
are we speaking way out of reality?
This is about my comment. This is what I would like to comment on. The most important is the people. Don't forget that. It's the people that are suffering. Right?
Yeah.
So we need to help them. There is 2 different times. The first response time, which is now, and the recovery time, which is afterwards. Let's hope that the response time now it's going to be very short. So it's going to end with this thing, so we can start recovery. And I'm pretty sure that all these AI, mindful technologies will be of great help in the recovery time. But don't forget that we are in a war.
Yeah.
We don't want to put a red dot over the people that are there. And let's try to help them the most efficient way that we can, and to make it worth for all those that are trying to help. This is our main goal. This is what we have.
So, I mean, this is an important sort of pivot in our conversation, I think. I was at a dinner the other night, and the conversation centered around, and I actually probably should be in the corner crawled up in a ball after the conversation, because it was pretty dire, about the food crisis that's going to ensue because of this war. And not just the refugees in Europe, but if the food crisis deepens, we're going to see this whole continent of Africa in a severe crisis. And we're talking about huge migration to Europe. We're talking about starvation and at levels that we haven't seen since probably the crisis in Ethiopia and back in the 80s. And so I guess some of the technology we're talking about seems like we need to get on top of this now on how we distribute food, how we help the World Food Program assess how it's. I mean, it seems to me that we're talking about some things in Ukraine that maybe a little bit of a dream because we are in a war. It's harder when there's an active military conflict to sort of create some new thing, do some new things. But could we do it to maybe solve the ensuing food crisis that we're going to see in Africa, and do that now? I mean, and how do we do that? How do we get to the policymakers to say, look, let's be creative here and let's be proactive here and use technology to our benefit? Does that question make sense?
I don't have a mic right now.
You're
like, maybe, but you want Yeah, I do want to specify, so everything I'm talking about is very much I would say totally recovery, 100%. If I'm thinking about this as let's solve the problem now, everything I said is R&D. I mean, there's developments, of course, but from my view, you have to look at, what are the features you want, how much money do you have, how much time do you have. So I would actually like to spin the question on you of what does success look like for you in working with the Ukrainian problem right now? Because then we could maybe even, just hash out some things in terms of you only have so much time, what kind of budget are you guys working with? And then as a result, we could try to say, hey, here are the root things to design for on the feature set. That way we're not doing R&D, we're being actionable now.
Okay, I'm going to get up and sit over here because you guys need to talk. You guys need to figure that out.
This is good. So key problems right now is I guess I'm saying, what does success look like in for let's say 3 months out versus 6 months out? What does that look like for you in terms of your relationship with working on the Ukrainian problem right now?
She's asking you to sit down and figure out
how much money do we need?
No, how she can help you.
Okay.
How can we help? What can the live stream help with?
Okay, first of all, we need all the help that you can give us.
Okay.
This is the most important, okay? Success for us would look like in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 months, we can send another team up there. We have already sent a team and assessed the situation. Send another team up there to see what has changed. We are in discussions with governmentals to see what feedback they can get us. And then we are going to reach out to all of you that are interested. We're going to say, okay, this is our plan. We need that from you. We have made a specific plan of what they need in this region, the other regions. Okay, they need personal hygiene in this region more than food. We have families that there are a lot of families with children, with small children, so we need baby food formulas. And okay, let's prepare some boxes so they can be for 1 month. So we are sure that for the next month they're going to have what they need. So this would look like success to us.
Okay, this is great. This is what I needed. All right, so going back to what the UI UX stuff we were talking about, I think my recommendation would be we do just spin up something, similar to, I think it was DavosWeek.org. Is that what it was? Yep. Yeah, I mean, everyone check it out, whatever. It's really simple UI, and I would actually just recommend hiring 1 or 2 people, spin that up. It's not a lot. Honestly, someone will probably do it for free from Stanford. I can put my interns on it if you want. Yes. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, I'll answer for you. I'll answer for you.
Right, because then what you could do is, it sounds like the three main problems you're trying to solve. It's a matching problem, and it's hey, you need these people who are on the ground floor telling you, no, I didn't need that. Yes, I did need that. Actually, I need more of that, or I don't need as much of it. And so there have been a lot of solutions across Africa. I mean, you guys probably know more than I do, right? But where just by having a simple UI, and it's literally just like a plus sign of like I need more or I don't, like this is good, this is not, like a thumbs up sign, or really simple emojis, right? These people can communicate to you a lot at scale, and you can have your plan, but the plan isn't going to work in the moment, right? We don't know if their village is suddenly bombed, right? And so if I don't know if they have smartphones though, so that's where I'm limited.
I mean, they're actually very well connected. I mean, it's
okay.
That's the question.
So that would be. I mean, my approach to this would be, doing something like whatever happened with the Davos Week org app, where these people can actually communicate with you really clearly. It's open source. The part where there might be maybe some concern would be if a certain country is trying to look at where are these people located, the geolocation. And so
you could block that though. You could.
Not the people.
Yeah.
It's at least the supplies, and you decouple that. Because we've done other maps too in Ukraine where we're like, we do not. I'm sorry. Like,
Can you block access to Russia?
Hey.
I get, yeah.
Not saying the country.
So
Well, I'm not politically correct.
What we can do is, so I've been oh lordy, so this is an issue that I have been kind of toying with in the blockchain space, right? Is that it's anonymous, but it's anonymous, right? So there are pros and cons to that, right? So how do we gate information to the people that need it? I know that cryptocurrency is actually fairly popular in Ukraine, especially during times of crisis, because centralized banks are often inaccessible to people. But there's something called a DID, which is a decentralized ID.
Right.
And that connects to wallets. So a wallet is a term that we use in the crypto space. It's a decentralized place where you hold wealth, assets, whatever have it. What you can do is we can DID gate this UI. We can make it incredibly accessible and easy. You set up an ability to communicate with people, make sure that they have wallets. That way they have an ID system when things start to fail. Oh, I've been like, please, someone. So I don't know what I don't know.
I'm feeling the same way, but
this is the solution that I've seen, but please.
I appreciate all your ideas,
too much?
but it's a little bit of reality.
Yeah.
Because why? I'm telling you why. Because they may have access to phones, as you say, and emojis and stuff like that. But those in need are not those. It's not the target group that we're aiming for. Those that they have wallets of cryptocurrency.
That's fair. Okay, so then, how do we get people
I think you could. There's got to be a technology solution to this, to gate that information.
Exactly. How do we make sure that the right people access it?
And if it's not, it's a select group of people that are feeding information back to a system.
Yeah, and something else. In my opinion, this must be a little bit centralized. Okay, it must be in a level of municipality. It cannot be in the
That's
level
fine.
of person.
That's fine. I think that's a perfect place to.
Yes, it
Well-
must go through a centralized system. It must go through governmental, because those are the one governmental, municipality, I don't know, region. It must be in this
main administrative bodies.
Well,
okay.
from a
It must be through
coordination standpoint, yes.
Yes,
right.
because you need
Right.
the coordination
Right.
point from their side. Okay,
In order to do that.
and let me give you an example.
And I think this is actually interesting for the blockchain community who is wary of government. But I think this is a great. But I think this is a good. This might be a good use case for that. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. But this is interesting. This is interesting.
Yeah, the thing is that we have seen a lot of lists and requests coming from people, okay, through the social media and everything, which they are not representing the true needs of the community. They are representing the needs of individuals. Okay, you have to sum it up somehow. Otherwise, you cannot intervene.
I have sort of a question/comment on that note. So, from a journalist standpoint, I guess, I have a little bit of cynicism when it comes to, big crises popping up. They sort of capture the news and the interest. And when we talk about intention, there's good intentions, but very often what's sort of sensationalized isn't always the best way to sort of donate, right? And I feel like a big problem there is that immediacy is key, because people might donate to the wrong cause. So what could be sort of a quick solution to the problem of figuring out the space of what is really slacktivism and what is really impactful sort of donation? Because it needs to be fast, right? I mean, working in the news, that's what I've realized. The Ukrainian conflict is dragging, so it's keeping sort of the attention of the people, but there's stories that just capture people's attention for like
And it
a
will
week.
fade away.
And then it will fade
There
away.
will be other major things that come up.
So you need to the allocation of resources needs to be optimized really fast.
Ukraine has done a masterful job of keeping it in the news,
Yeah,
but can they sustain that, right?
exactly.
One word: tracking. You have to know exactly. This is what we do for our donors and our sponsors. We keep track of where the donation goes, so they know exactly first of all, what has been donated. We give them a complete report. Where has been donated and to whom. So this is the thing that they need. So we close the circle and they know exactly what they did.
And I would add one last one of did they actually use it, and then was it helpful? Or I guess two last ones, right? Yeah. Because I think oftentimes I'll think helping my mom do something, and she's like, that was not helpful, Ari. Here's what was helpful. So that's kind of why I always try to ask you what does success look like? And then also I would say that's kind of the pre-test as an experimental scientist. It's that's the pre-test of an experiment, and the post-test is okay. Well, was it helpful, right? I think those are kind of meaningful questions, and honestly, I love your immediacy question, the slacktivism thing. I haven't heard people use that in a while. It's pretty refreshing. It's a real thing, and I think the immediacy part, wallets. I totally agree with him. I think it's exciting, but it takes too much time. The reality is, spin up a really easy UI, have it be totally, from my view, totally centralized through them. Ideally, it'd be a synthetic version of it, which again, you still have to have someone who knows how to even do that. But easy UI, 3 questions, maybe 5 questions at most. It shouldn't be longer than 2 or 3 minutes, and they should be able to, if they see a car crash, look at Waze and their UI and how they do stuff. Don't do the audio. That's too much. But they say, hey, look, here's a car crash. Yeah, here's a cop. Here's a whatever. That way these people who are, they want to help their community, you're able to assess that. And then I would say before it transacts on the decision of this is actually going to go through, so that you don't have the individual opinion. I don't know how we actually do this yet. Maybe there's a DAO thing. I don't know. But it would be, hey, we can see that all these people want this, and then you have a localized representative or something. I really don't know how to solve that part. Yeah, something like that. Of like going and just they're like, oh, I know this. Obviously, someone could get bribed though, so there's an issue there. But
There's
yeah.
a lot of logistics. I mean,
Yeah.
once that's done, there's a logistics issue and all that. But
Yeah.
as fascinating as this has been, this is one of the most fun panels I've been on here at Davos, and interesting. You know, even if this is not something we can apply in this crisis because we're in the middle of it, I do think there's some lessons that we could take for others. And you know, we're in crisis in all kinds of parts of the world, and so this is definitely something that your organization can probably use this technology moving forward to really help you respond to what you do. So I think, if anything, I think that's a great kind of takeaway from today. And you've got some new friends that are willing to...
It's a living proof that two people with completely different backgrounds, they can work together for a common good, which is the most important thing in these situations. So thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And thank you guys. Thank you. And thank you wherever you are today. We say hi. Bye. Join us today here at 3 Cows Davos. I think it's 5 o'clock today. Is that right?
Yes.
At 5 o'clock, we'll be back on live on day 2, official day 2 of the World Economic Forum here in Davos, Switzerland. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun. Fabulous. Can I show you some?
Speaking of really simple UI,
Okay, I have to go to
this is the map that I was talking about.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Basically,
Did I use it still on?
these are the categories.